Hey everybody, Tommy here, World at War Comics, and I have another amazing guest or guests for you today. But before we get into that, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, please share it. That really helps out the channel. All right, without further ado, I have the team from Iron Age Comics. We have Mr. John, Mina, and Alan to talk about an amazing title you don't want to miss out on. If you love horror, you're going to love the twist that they put together with this next title. All right, without further ado, here is the team from Iron Age, and I hope you really enjoy this one. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. Back again, my good buddies over at Iron Age Comics with an amazing title that you can get right now on Kickstarter. But before we jump into that, we'd love to introduce everybody joining me today. We got Mr. John Santana with us today. Thank you, John, for coming back. We were going back and forth on Instagram trying to find a date, so I do apologize. I was the one holding up everything for sure. We got Mina Elwell back again. Thank you, Mina and AC Medina. AC, it's so good to meet you, my friend. I'm excited to jump in and talk about this, be honest, crazy ass looking title. I mean, it looks phenomenal, but it looks like it's out there, man. That first cover, I don't know if it was cover A I was looking at. That's a frightful cover, man. That could scare the heck. We were just talking about gargoyles and how scary that was in the 90s. I'm not sure this would be on Disney Plus, man.
Not at all, not at all. This is a project that Mina and Alan both brought to me, and they were very excited about it. And as soon as they started telling me the concept, I just said we have to publish this thing. Like it's such a cool idea, and I'll let either one of those guys give the elevator pitch because they're the ones who sold me on it, and they got me hook, line, and sinker.
Well, I love it. I love it. Well, let's jump right in. I mean, Mina, do you want to go?
Sure. Just about the elevator pitch for it.
Sure, yeah.
So our story is a post-apocalyptic story, but what was doomsday for the humans of this world is the biggest famine to ever hit the vampire population. Because a problem for the humans means problem for their livestock. So the last remaining, survivors of humanity are now kept in complexes called abattoirs or like killing floors around the country and presumably around the world, but we're not expanding that far in volume one, where the vampires keep them alive, keep them mostly safe, mostly healthy. They can lead their free lives, but only with the knowledge that eventually they will all be food.
Great. AC, anything you want to add to that, my friend?
No, I mean, very much like gave a good overview. I guess like, if you had to like look beyond the scares, I would say our story is very much about like what survival means to different people. Our survivalists all have different strategies that kind of come into play, and there's different perspectives, whereas like some might have a lot more brighter outlook, others have like sort of thrived in this kind of like do or die sort of environment. And that's been a lot exciting. Our story is not like one of those where the humans are the monsters all along. Like the vampires are very much the monsters. The humans are very much in like a different, a lower level in the food chain. But that's not like getting in their way of, being evil themselves. So it's pretty interesting to see. I We've had a lot of luck with our artists who've had a very different vision than we initially had, and it sort of come together in this like homunculus of like different kinds of horror, which I really appreciate, and I think folks will enjoy. So I hope to hear more.
And maybe we'll start with you, AC. Can you kind of talk about the genesis of this story, how you and Mina have put this whole thing together? When did it start? When did the story take place? How long have you been kind of sitting on it before John got to see it? That type of thing.
So me and Mina have like a distinct process where like we both have our own separate careers, but then sometimes we have ideas where we're like, oh, we could really together it'll be a lot better. And this was actually one that Mina first brought to me. I think there was something with like a sort of like a prison break pacing that she felt I would have like a good grasp on. And I really enjoyed the twist of it being more of a famine for vampires than like an end of the world. I think those two conflicting ideas really like attracted me to it. I uh I would say as far as like the initial genesis, I'll let Mina cover that, but I do remember thinking the idea sounded awesome. Jumping in there.
Yeah, Mina.
I'm trying to think what the first spark was, and I think it's that I was trying to sell my father, who actually did that A cover that we were just talking about, on the idea of an apocalyptic story. It was like a movie I wanted him to watch, and he is not down for apocalyptic stories. He thinks they're old, he thinks they're tired, he doesn't want to watch them. And I was like, well, what if it was vampires? Because he loves vampires. And we had this like long conversation about what that would mean for vampires. And at the end of it, I was like, I'm actually gonna do it. Like I'm actually gonna come up with this, long thought experiment that we just had. We're gonna come up with something spooky for it. But I think you'll probably notice our vampires are pretty far from the standard vampire. There's not a lot of there's not a man in a cape with a dramatic accent. We have a true monster that, scuttles on walls and couldn't really disguise itself as a human despite their lovely hats.
We're gonna have to dig more into that too in a moment. Yeah, because that's hilarious. Can you talk a little bit about the art? Because the art looks amazing. Anna, I hope I don't know if I could even pronounce her last name, to be quite honest. I don't want to get it wrong and be disrespectful, but Anna is the artist, and the art looks fabulous. Can you kind of talk about the art and that collaboration back and forth between you and the artist?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one that John can speak to as well, because he's an editor on this. But what Alan was hinting at is that we brought a very gritty, small scale idea. Like these are these barely surviving humans in what's a prison complex setting, and we're going to follow them as they try to make their way out. And Anna looked at our list of dirty, nasty, grimy people and was like, they're all beautiful. They wear good outfits. And also the setting is like a gothic wonderland. And like we usually you think, oh, you have vision, but then we looked at those pages and we were like, actually, she's right. Like she's 100% right. This is so much more interesting and so much more pleasant and lush to read than just like unrelenting misery and gray panels.
I love that.
Yes. She created something that went from like a standard prison complex, which can be big, to a gigantic, sprawling like prison city. And it just opened up our minds as we were shooting back and forth ideas of what this could mean for the story as a whole outside this Abattoir. When you look at the scale of it, it looks like a mini city. And then we were just talking back and forth. Well, do these vampires have jobs? How do they work? Do they live in high rises while humans live underneath in prison? There's so many things just by looking at her images that we were coming up with, and these guys are just knocking it out the park when it comes to ideas.
Well, it looks phenomenal. What I'll do now is let's pull it up on the screen real quick and let's take a look at it together and let's walk through the Kickstarter and everything fans can prepare themselves to get when they back, because this thing looks phenomenal, man. And it's 44 pages, so you're getting a lot of story in this Kickstarter as well. So this
Yeah,
is the first thing that I saw, and I'm like, I'm not seeing vampires, so this is a lot different from what, like you said, what you would normally expect when you see that, which is refreshing, right? Because there are a lot out there of vampire stories. So, like your father, Mina, I could probably agree, like, wow, it's another story about vampire. I think you've taken what a trope that most people are familiar with and put this really unique twist on it that is really exciting. And then to have the humans, like I wonder if they're sitting around knowing that they're just they're going to be food eventually. Like, how do you survive like that? How do you function like that, knowing that this is the situation? But let's kind of walk through it a little bit if we could, and talk about what we're looking at here. It looks like we start off with stretch goals. So should we stop there?
Yeah, we can. We can skip the stretch goals and come back to them. Why don't we end with
Let's
the
do
stretch
that.
goals? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, here are some of the interiors, and like you said, that grittiness, that I don't know, everything about it is beautiful. And I have to tell you, the one thing I always look for artists is background work within the panels. Um, you know, I understand when artists have a lot of work, you could tell because a lot of times the background, right, is much more simpler, or maybe that's just their art style. They want to really focus on whatever's taking front and center, but they don't put a lot of focus. I don't think Anna does that. She goes all out on everything that's taking place within the panel, and the detail is insane.
Yeah, totally
She's
agree. Yeah.
she's someone who I had met working on Haunted Box, also from Iron Age.
Yeah.
And the illustrations that she did for that are amazing. They're some of my like favorite horror art that I've ever gotten back from somebody, but I did not anticipate how big she was going to go on the full book.
Shows the excitement that she had for this story, it sounds like.
Yeah, her scope is something that's always been very impressive to work with, and
Yeah.
And
I
and her design skills are just next level. She like the word that Mina and Alan keep using is vision. Like she has a clear vision. These weird jester hats and wait till you meet the one with the sombrero. I mean, they're crazy looking creepy. There's a serious creep factor to these vampires. They're more creature than vampire, and we love it.
Absolutely. It looks phenomenal. Are you able to share like what pages these are within the story? Are we looking like at the first couple pages, or is this somewhere in the middle?
this is right near the beginning, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
We kind of throw you in there head first. We didn't want our story picks up generations and generations after the world's collapsed entirely. Which is another thing that I found very exciting of our story. Like, there's no pining for the world that used to be because our characters don't even know what that world was. It's this is the only world they know, and it's quite the twisted. And one thing that we really found is something very I'm a big fan of in our story is that our vampires, despite being monsters, despite being very alien in nature, they have rituals. They have they have almost a performance to what they do because in a way, like us, they're the ones that are attached to the old world in our story. They're still trying to hang on to the world that used to be, as opposed to the world that's coming, because they used to have their meals when people were happy and free and producing and living on their own, and like whether or not there's a biological reason to that, I don't think it is so much the interesting factor as opposed to the idea that they don't want to let go of the world that's long gone. Despite being monsters, they're nostalgic, and I think Anna really helped seal that with not just their design, but the Abattoir's design, like the world's design there. If you look at that the double page spread there, you can't really tell when that's from. That could be from like the 1800s. That could be from like medieval ages. That could be whatever. Truth be told, I couldn't tell you where it's from. It wasn't in the script, and I find that very interesting. I find the fact that like in our story, and this is all because of Anna. Sometimes I forget. I'm like, did the world end in 2020? Did it end in 2000s? Did it end in the 80s? You never know. You really can't. And I think she's really helped with that. So, something
Looks
funny.
amazing. It's almost like obviously being human and being from different backgrounds, right? We all come to the table with a different culture, and those cultures blend when we come together. You don't see too many stories that have monsters and or like vampires where you really understand the culture behind how they live and like you said, how they operate and how they function day to day. So I think that's another uniqueness that I don't think I've experienced in a comic book or even storylines where vampires are at the core.
We were very interested in the way that their lifestyle would have to change because we had this image of vampires being almost like, free range farmers. You imagine that Gothic castle that Dracula has out in the middle of nowhere, where he's pulling in individual people and the peasants are at his beck and call, but like the wider world doesn't know about them.
Yeah.
Now they're factory farmers. They have to go from being mostly solitary to being in this unit. So what we're seeing is like almost a new culture for them, but like Alan was saying, clinging to this idea of the past when, because how old these vampires are, we don't know. Like they clearly remember some things that our humans do not. The only hints about what the humans still have going on is the names, which I'm sure you'll get to as you scroll down to the character cards. But it's like the idea of these things has been passed down through generations, but they don't know what it means anymore. It's just these little ancestral memories. But the vampires will know what those things mean.
And something that really stuck out to me in the first pitch, because the first pitch, if you guys remember, it was a Facebook group message that went on for like an hour and a half. It just kept going, and I just kept asking questions, and they had answers. And one of the things that I remember sticking out was since the vampires remember what happened and the humans don't, are the vampires telling them the truth? And some of the humans totally believe everything the vampires are saying, and some of the humans want to lead a revolt because they don't believe anything the vampires are saying. And it's almost like a microcosm of us in our government.
Yeah.
And that hooked me. I loved it.
I love that. So can you kind of walk us through what are we seeing right here on this page? Because this one looked nuts in a good way.
Do you want that, Alan?
Sure. So what we're seeing here is a feeding, which this is usually every night. And it's all like this is where our story starts. So you're very much starting here. It's kind of similar to like, we wanted to jump you in head first. And right now, I feel like the vampires are sort of like, in a way, tenderizing them because, they're very much scaring them to their highest, most vulnerable state. And I find it interesting that in a way they're kind of like messing with, you know, we sort of mess a little bit with our readers in the way the captions are laid out because we make you think that the person you're listening to is about to be eaten, but in reality, you're listening to the guy that's just made it, that's watched the other guy get eaten, and he's very like relieved and very selfish, like he just watched this guy get brutally murdered, and all he's thinking is like, man, am I glad it's not me, and I think that's very much the nature of our story. It kind of lets you know that, the humans here, their survival comes in different ways. And it also shows, again, what I mentioned earlier about how ritualistic our vampires are right now. They're seated in a specific order. It's almost like the vampires care more about who's sitting where than the people. They're held there in prison. They're quite literally chained down to it. And so it's something I found fun.
And I just want to throw in that I know this is not intentional, but Tommy, I don't know about you. When I see this image, I think this is like a extreme horror version of One-Eyed Willie's table from the Goonies. That's what it looks like.
100%. 100%, yeah. No, when I didn't know if this was like an after and before shot of the same people. Obviously, you look at their clothes and you can see the differences, but I was like, man, this is brutal. Whatever the hell happened here does not look like fun, and I would not want to participate at all. Is the only thing I could think of here.
Yeah, there's definitely a mirroring. It's kind of like a mirroring of fate, you know? And if you look at like Earth 3 about to be eaten, like there's one guy retaliating, there's one guy just anticipating who was our focus, and then like the person right towards the end there is just kind of like they're just shocked and ambivalent. You know what I mean? Like they're which I think a lot of our people are.
Yeah,
You know, it's kind of like if you're treated like cattle, you'll probably start bleeding. So
yeah. No, very good point. And then here we get a really good close up of what the process looks like, I guess.
yeah,
And
and
no silverware needed, I guess.
yeah,
It
like
only stays ritualistic for so long.
right here, like again, I love that Anna does this because you can't you like if you told me this page right here alone took place in like medieval times, I'd absolutely believe it. It's like some dark fantasy, but then like it it changes after. I just feel like it's a very subtle way of kind of like giving acknowledgement to vampires' roots in that like gothic setting. So again, all credit to Anna.
Yeah, well, she's amazing, that's for sure. Yeah, look at that. I don't know. That's a lot of fear, I think, in the eyes right there. And let's walk through this one. What are we seeing here on this page?
So here in Anna's Black and Whites, in the previous pages, you saw the three chosen from the last feeding, who the corpses are still there, and then the ones who are about to be eaten sitting in the chairs as well. But here, our protagonist, one of our other characters, and a few others have been made to pull this cart, and the cart is full of corpses that they need disposed of. But as you can see, the cart has sort of toppled over the edge and is coming into what we call the corpse trough or the corpse chute, where the rest of the bodies are just, around. So this guy up at the back, all the vampires have clothes that are sort of either taken from parts of human clothes or inspired by them um, for reasons of their own. And this guy we call hazmat because he's in kind of a hazmat suit. But it's not doing him any practical purpose here. It's just his look.
I think it definitely helps to strike more fear, that's for sure.
It's definitely, like again, they have their own culture. Hazmat doesn't want to do this, but like he has to do this, or else he won't eat. And or maybe Hazmat likes it. It's kind of hard to tell, but again, they have their rituals, and yeah, there's a lot more that happens with the corpse trench. Uh, Pretty exciting. And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Very
they're
awesome.
into the vampires are into renewable energy.
Yeah.
They're very progressive.
So so at least they're green. That's good. That's
They're
good.
very green.
Yeah.
And so the people, I don't want to give, too much away to people, right? They need to get this and they get it in their hands. But it seems like here you have these people, they know their food, and then they're even made to work to pull the corpses out after the like can you imagine like living in this environment where you know that your end is probably going to be dinner for a bunch of people but while you're waiting for your turn here you are working on their behalf to bring bodies to remove bodies to dump bodies like my goodness man the torture that these people are going through it just seems crazy.
And not too long after, it's going to be you. Just for now, you
Yeah.
know, you just got to pull the corpse card.
Yeah. And then the dynamic between all of them, right, for survival. Like my kids, I don't know if you're familiar with Mr. Beast, and he had this like Amazon show, and they were watching it, and it starts with like 1,000 people, and it just gets whittled down by causing them to go after one another for survival, and that's just to win some money, right? Everyone's safe, right? But like I feel like Mr. Beast has been in charge of this, and he's just who's gonna be the last living human that is lucky
Um,
enough to become someone's food, you know?
On that note, Tommy, if you don't mind, skip. If you look on the left of your screen where you have the little tabs, if
Sure,
you click characters, I think now is a good time to segue into characters, and we can go back to the covers after.
you bet.
Now, I will say though, I've gotten some good horror reviews in my day, but I'm definitely happy to hear it reminds me of a Mr. Beast sketch or event. That's pretty good.
I'm glad that wasn't offensive. I meant that in all the
Yeah,
best
no,
ways for
great.
sure.
That's some
I was at
smart.
Union Square when his giveaway turned into like low-key a riot.
Yes.
I just remember seeing all the cop cars come in. I'm like, oh, what's happening? Like, what is this, massive protest that's happening? It's like, no, he's giving away some like PS4 or something.
If it helps Alan, that Mr. Beast show he's talking about is just an American version of Squid Games.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, really so. Yeah, where you everyone does live though. That's the major difference between the two, right? No one actually dies. All right, let's
I
jump into
know.
some characters and character development. What are we looking at here?
So Axel is our protagonist. He is pretty like ready to give up at the beginning of his story, and we're gonna see him find a reason to believe that there could be a life on the outside. Because the humans all know the truth that there is no way of surviving outside of the walls. That they don't know exactly what it is. There's different stories, but that their ancestors on purpose chose to be livestock for the vampires because it was the only way for humanity to survive.
Hmm.
And Axel is going to get a hint that maybe that's not the case.
Well, actually, if you read there, we say why. There's, funny enough, in our world, aging is hope. Because once Axel realizes that you can be older than the oldest man he's ever seen, he realizes that like there's so much more to life, and it's funny. Like it sounds funny now, but in a way, it's kind of like for a guy like Axel, that's like biggest hope. Like if he once seeing gray hair for him just blows his mind, and he meets someone that really sort of shifts all of this into perspective, and
Interesting.
which
What an amazing concept. All right,
And
let's.
then this is
Oh, go ahead.
this is
Sorry, Mina.
Bronx. On I think in our time, Bronx would probably be like a biochemist. She's very much a genius. But that's not her purpose. In this world, her job is to be food eventually. And in the meantime, she wants to lengthen that. She could be maybe making some new livestock for the vampires to take advantage of. But for whatever reason of her own, she is not doing that. And she's going to have some interest in Axel's plan because she might be the one who makes it work.
Interesting. How about Flint here?
You want to do that one, Alan?
now Flint is again like we described. We wanted to show that not that like humans morality, but it's more about like survival and how survival takes different strategies. Flint, by all means, could have been like a good guy in another world, maybe, maybe not though. But he's an example that his path to survival is a path that's very rooted in like selfish, insular wants, and ultimately it's successful and needed, but to an extent. And I think these three sort of show a nice little trinity of different perspectives to how survival works in this world. Axel has a very pure-hearted approach. Bronx has a very almost cold, logical approach, and Flint has a purely cold, heartless approach. And you know, all three are necessary to get by.
Yeah. Makes
You're gonna
sense,
see
right?
right at the
Because we,
beginning.
oh, go ahead, Mina, please.
You're
Yeah.
gonna see right at the beginning of his story. They all have kind of a moment that flips their plans for the future, and Flint's is going to be that he realizes that he could actually die, which is not a surprise in this world. You'd think everyone would know it, but we've all been a teenager, so
And also, I love you're in this environment that is constantly stressful, right? There doesn't seem like there's much of a release of that fear that you could be food at any time. And how people react to that is completely different based on a lot of different reasons, right? And so you're getting to see how that kind of stressful environment impacts each individual and how they react to that. And like you said, some are just they become cold to it because they see it all the time. Some are more innocent, maybe because they're younger and maybe they don't see the bigger picture. And then another one just knows the end's coming, so screw everybody. I'm going to do whatever I want until the end comes, right? I love that excuse me, character development and that reaction that each character would get because that's real life. I think any kind of stressful environment that we all experience at the same time will probably have a different reaction to it based on a ton of different reasons, right? Upbringing, maybe seeing stuff before in your life that was pretty tough to go through and overcoming it. Like all those things I think are working, and I love that. I mean, you have a lot of depth in the character development, which I think is really cool.
some of us just bake sourdough.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
exactly. Exactly. All right, here we go. The vampires here.
There's a
Now you
super
can see the
dude.
big hat.
There's the hat.
They're very much the stars of our show. I feel. And,
Yeah. The stars, huh?
they're very stylish. I mean,
That's been fun for us because at least in this first volume, you're not going to hear them speak in words.
Mm.
So, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a storyline. They have their own thing going on, but you kind of have to be keyed into the visuals. And fortunately, Anna has done these fantastic, like quasi-human, what time period, what century are you from outfits for them. So you can tell who's who
Yeah.
if you're looking for it.
Amazing. So unique. So really, like this volume is specifically from the human aspect. And so we're not so much getting, at least verbally, the vampire aspect yet in this issue. Does that sound right or no?
Yeah, I think that is right because we're following it from Axel's perspective, and his understanding of the vampires is just what they do.
Okay.
It's not why they do it because, how would you understand it? You go in, it's this massive ritual where they kill you at the end. Like, but I think people who are reading it and are interested in the vampires will be able to follow their story too.
Yeah.
yeah,
Excellent.
and the relationship between the humans and the vampires is something we continue to explore. Um, and you find that even as living livestock, humans are very capable of having immense egos, and a lot of the things the vampires do, certain humans in our story interpret in different ways, and sometimes they project to it. So it's something I found very interesting.
Incredible. So we're going to learn a lot, I think, in this first issue about these folks right here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we have some add-ons. I thought maybe we just really quickly, if you're okay, John, go to the creative team.
Sure.
Obviously, we have Mina here that everyone is getting to meet that's watching this. We have Alan here. But we've been talking about Anna and the amazing work that she's been able to do from an artistic standpoint. So everyone here is Anna, which is awesome. And then Micah literally is the letter for so many different things. I've
Yeah.
never seen someone so passionate about lettering, and lettering is an art. I mean, it's tremendously a major part of any comic book, and he is absolutely incredible. I mean, if you get a tattoo that you're a letterer, you know you have a passion for being a letterer, and I think that is awesome. He's a great guy too, a lot of fun. And then here you are, Mr. John, editor and publisher. So I thought it was important just so we show the rest of the team, especially Micah and Anna, since they're not on this particular call. But man, what a great team, and what an amazing like premise. Like didn't even realize how deep it was until we had this conversation right now. But it's phenomenal. Is it okay now, John? Should we go to the covers and show
Yeah,
people what they
let's
can
take
get?
a look. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so here they are. Here's that first cover. I was like, what the hell am I looking at here, man? This is nuts. So who did this cover, by the way? Who's the artist behind this one?
So this one's my dad, Tristan Elwell. He's
Oh,
an illustrator. You know him from a lot of things, but if you've been watching the stream, you would know him as the colorist from Infernoct as well.
Infernoct, yeah. I remember
Yeah.
having that conversation. Well, he killed it. This is like the most terrifying cover I think I've ever seen. It's just I didn't want to look too long, right? I kind of glance and look away real quick. But this is absolutely horrifying.
I'm obsessed with like the little hint of whatever is going on with the neck because
Yes.
the head part you're like, okay, it's maybe kind of Nosferatu, a little, except with the fangs and the tongue, but then you're like, oh no, the body is also weird. Like there's more going on to this guy off the page.
Is this a character that will see the entire body, or is not in this issue?
Yeah, keep an eye out for it.
Okay, cool. That's
It's
all we
gonna
need.
be there.
Very cool. Well, this is freaky as hell. So we'll move on to the next one. I don't even want to look at it anymore.
Mission accomplished.
How about this cover? This cover is pretty awesome. I thought it was an electric chair when I first saw it. But then as I was going through everything else, I realized, I know where this is coming from. So you want to walk us through that, and who was the artist on this one as well?
That's an Anna cover. She turned in a lot of different ideas for covers, but this one, just the monochromatic red down the middle makes it seem like the cover is bleeding and like a river, and then you've got the imagery in the background of like skulls and wires. It's a really great first cover because it gives you a feel for what the book is, but it's also very stylistic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have a feeling this might be near the pit where all the bodies maybe are poured out. All right. How about this one right here?
That's a John Santana special. I'm no artist, so I got to come up with something, right? I love messing with textures on covers.
Yeah.
So for this, and we did it for Infernoct too, where you'll have a that soft touch caress laminate on the black part, and then the logo, the A6 logo will be so. I mean, it's not just spot UV; it's almost glass,
Yeah.
and it's just impossible to show on a digital image, but it's gorgeous. Yeah, just like that.
You
Awesome.
see,
That's the
the
Infernoct.
logo itself has this shimmer, and then the cover is matte. It's really
That's so
very
cool.
cool. I
Yeah,
haven't seen anything like that before.
and in person you see that I don't know how else to put it, but the thickness of that spot UV gloss is way more thick than what you would normally see. It's literally almost like it's pliable, but it's almost like a glass. And also the blood stains will have that same reflective uh, glassy look. So it'll be a gorgeous cover to look at, and that's our premium cover.
I love it. I love the blood splatter all over. That looks awesome. All right, cover D.
That's a good friend of mine, Ryan. He's local to me. I always have him do covers for everything I do. That way, we go to conventions together. He can sign them, and he always comes up with some creepy horror stuff. And he's also got that cartoony vibe, right? And it was a nice little change for all the other covers that we did. It was a nice little, left turn, and I like it. I dig it a lot.
Me too. I love the skulls. The skulls look incredible. All right, and then looks like we have Virgin covers of 3 of the 4 here.
Yeah, and if you get, I don't know if you can zoom in. I love the Virgin cover A because the logo is covering the weird. I don't know why I'm fascinated by this thing's ear. That ear, in addition to the neck, it's vulgar. Like the ear, I don't like you said before. I don't want to look directly at it, but I'm very curious as to what the hell's going on. It's just ugh. But I love that. So I love that reaction that it gives me. So
Yeah, no, it is absolutely horrifying, to be quite honest. Yeah, it's just, and I'm sure that's what you're going for, so kudos,
yeah,
but that is horrifying. So hopefully it didn't get too grainy when I expanded it, but man, it looks dope as hell though. I mean, what a talent.
yeah,
Incredible.
it's amazing stuff.
Insane. Wow.
The Hugo nominated illustrator of ears right there.
You could see why. You could definitely see why. Well deserved. Well
Ears.
deserved. And there might be another award coming for that cover as well. Um, but man, any horror con, you got to have that there, man. That thing will fly
Yeah,
off the shelves, man. That is literally the scariest thing I think I've seen on a comic book cover.
awesome.
Beautiful. Well, let's go to the stretch goals real quick. I think this is the only thing that we really haven't covered yet, but some amazing stretch goals. Um, you want to kind of walk us through
Sure.
where we could
Uh,
possibly get?
so it looks like we might be able to make this one pretty soon.
Mhm.
The free 8x10 poster. It's kind of a staple for stretch goals for Iron Age. It's always nice to have a little poster to put up, especially if you're a fan. The next one is that smooth soft touch cover I was talking about on all the covers. It won't have the spot UV gloss, but it'll have a that smooth caress soft touch. And then that next stretch goal is one I'm very excited about because it's our next Kickstarter. It's our very own AC Medina, his next book called Deadhead.
Nice.
Just it'll be the first look at it. It's a preview of it. We actually have the pages colored. We have more covers. This book is going to be a blast. I'll let uh, Alan introduce or AC introduce it, but it,
Uh,
it's like, you know what?
yeah,
AC, you go for
we gotta hit the stretch goal first, and then
Yeah.
I'll
it.
happily
Please.
introduce the book. But or down the line we'll talk about it on the show. Hopefully,
I would love that. I
I'm
would love
very excited for it. It's very very close to I'm very happy with it. And I believe our readers will be too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
what I
are
will say about it is because it's an AC book, I thought it was fitting to put that preview into Abattoir 6. So
Yeah.
I can tell AC doesn't want to give too much away, and it's a very fun book. It's drastically different type of horror. I'll say there's a wildness and a level of fun and less dread and more balls to the wall crazy stuff.
Oh,
So
I'll sing like a canary about it once we get 4,500.
Yeah. So
So I'm very passionate we will.
let's get you there, man. Let's see if we can help you
I'm
get there.
very, very confident. Tom's lovely audience will get us there, and I'll happily tell anyone.
I mean, that art for real, it is simultaneously the most gory and adorable. Like really, really great.
I love it. Well, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, so I cannot wait to have you back, Alan, when we can really dig into this one. That'd be a lot of fun, man.
AC, but yeah, thank you. Absolutely, I'll be happy to be here.
Yeah, let's do it. It's a done deal, man.
Uh,
And
all
then we
right,
can
and then we've got
upgrade.
a bigger poster upgrade, and then that final one. I hope we can get to that just so we can really get a look at Anna's inks and her work. Just the black and white cover as an add-on would be very cool.
Fabulous. Incredible. Well, let's see. I'm going to hit this. All right, so
We're rolling.
we got less than $500 to get to that first goal, so let's make sure that we get there. I will blast this everywhere, first thing. And man, you got a fan in me. I don't know if I want that cover, Mina, but everything else about this I absolutely love. But yeah, that is a freaky ass cover. I'm sorry, but that is crazy. In a good way, by the way, in a very good way. Yeah.
We'll make
So
sure Tristan knows.
yeah, please
Yeah.
let Tristan know that I was completely freaked out. I hope I sleep tonight. I might need to take a little something something to help me relax later on, but that was dope as hell. This looks phenomenal, by the way. Congratulations, team, on another banger. Um, I'll put everything below on how to follow each one of you like we did last time. We'll make sure the link is down there. I'm gonna blast this all over the place. And then John, just beyond me to hey, send it out again, send it out again. This deserves to hit some of these goals because the art is phenomenal. The story, I think, I hope that this comes across how unique of a story this is. I don't know of anything like it. Which is a lot of fun, right? We have a lot of vampire tropes. We have a lot of, that type of stuff is out there. This is something that I don't think people have ever experienced before. And it deserves a read because it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. So as always, I really appreciate you all bringing this to the channel and allow me to share this to everybody that watches. There is no channel without folks like you, so I truly, truly appreciate it. And man, you're always welcome anytime you want to come on. I love having you, and you guys are producing some crazy stuff, which I absolutely love.
All right, we got a lot of stuff
So
for you
much.
this year, Tom. We can't wait to share it with you.
Uh, I cannot wait to dig into it. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. Congratulations, Mina, by the way. Very awesome addition to the family. I'm not talking about the cover anymore. I'm talking about your child.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, congratulations. Welcome to this world of parenthood. It's the most amazing thing ever. And to you, Alan's pleasure meeting you, my friend. And John, as always, we'll be in touch. Yeah, cannot wait to have you all back again. But thank you for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
take care.
much.
Have a good night.
Have a good one, everyone.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.